A secret project. That's all anyone knew. Whispers in the motorsport world, rumors among collectors. Behind closed doors, Porsche was crafting something radical. This wasn't just another sports car. This was meant to be the pinnacle of automotive excellence. A machine born from racing DNA, refined in silence and unleashed without compromise. Porsche had long mastered the art of performance, both on the track and on the road. But the Carrera GT was different. It wasn't a refinement, it was a fusion. The raw, unfiltered soul of a Le Mans prototype stuffed into a carbon fiber shell and offered to the public with a manual gearbox and no electronic safety nets. It was breathtaking, it was brutal, and it was dangerous. What the engineers saw as a masterpiece, the world would come to remember as a tragedy. Because no one, not even Porsche, could predict the cost of unleashing this beast. Before the beast. It didn't start with a showroom, or a launch event, or even a production plan. The story of the Porsche Carrera GT began years before the world ever laid eyes on it, quietly, in the shadows of the late 1990s. It was an era of transformation. The automotive world was pushing boundaries like never before. Horsepower figures were climbing, lap times were dropping, and engineering was evolving at breakneck speed. Supercars were no longer just fast, they were becoming wild, dangerous, and untamed. And just beyond the horizon, the digital age was beginning to reshape everything. Porsche, already a legend in motorsport circles, was watching, planning. This wasn't just a car company. This was a brand built on precision, reputation, and ruthless execution. Known for dominating Le Mans, carving corners with surgical finesse, and delivering an unfiltered connection between man and machine, Porsche didn't follow trends, it created them. But now, with the world changing faster than ever, Porsche was hungry for more. It didn't just want to compete in the new era, it wanted to redefine it. And deep inside their skunk works, hidden from public view, something ferocious was beginning to take shape. The 911 effect. The 911 wasn't just a car, it was Porsche's identity in motion. Born as the successor to the humble 356, the 911 didn't just fill big shoes, it kicked the doors off the automotive world. With razor-sharp handling and a focus on the driver's pure connection to the road, the 911 carved its place in history with surgical precision. But it wasn't just dominating streets, it was conquering racetracks, stacking up wins across the globe, and proving that German engineering could blend elegance with lethal performance. These machines weren't just fast, they were mythical, icons, and Porsche built an empire around them. For over 60 years, the 911 has evolved, adapted, and endured. Yet it never lost its place at the core of Porsche's brand philosophy. But what does that have to do with the Carrera GT? Well, as the 911 evolved, something started to shift. With each generation, the car became a little more refined, a little more comfortable, and to the eyes of the purist, a little less raw. Porsche was chasing perfection, but some fans felt they were losing their soul. The once ferocious street-legal race car was now being dressed in luxury, softened for the masses. The faithful began to worry. Was Porsche going soft? Was the brand that once lived for the podium now bowing to the boardroom? And in that very tension between performance and polish, purism and progress, the stage was set for something radical. Something that would remind the world exactly what Porsche was capable of. Built from rebellion. The 911 was getting softer. Faster? Sure. More refined? Absolutely. But as Porsche pushed the 911 into the luxury lane, something was missing. The raw, untamed energy that once defined the brand. But behind the scenes, something else was brewing. Porsche had an opportunity. A shot to silence the critics and prove they hadn't gone soft. And when that door opened, they kicked it clean off the hinges. What came out of it? A machine so brutal, so advanced, and so dangerous, it could never be built today. This wasn't just an engine, it was a monster. A fire-breathing, high-revving V10 juggernaut that Porsche had been secretly developing. Not for the streets, but for the savage world of Formula One. Yeah, you heard that right. Back in the 90s, Porsche had its eyes on F1, and this engine was going to be their nuclear warhead. But before it could make its debut, the plan was scrapped. Formula One slipped through Porsche's fingers, and with it, the beast was left without a purpose. But they weren't done. Not even close. The engineers pivoted. They took that same V10 and pointed it straight at another battlefield, Le Mans. The plan? A prototype race car with his heart of pure fury at its core. But just as things were picking up steam, corporate pulled the plug. Why? Because Porsche's parent company smelled bigger profits somewhere else. Not in speed, not in glory, but in an SUV. Enter the Cayenne. To the board, the future was family haulers, safe, reliable, cash-printing SUVs, and a high-strung, track-ready V10 that didn't fit the business plan. So they told the engineers to shut it down. But those engineers, they weren't about to let their hard work die in a boardroom. They had poured years, blood, sweat, and late nights into building something extraordinary. And they weren't just going to walk away, not without a fight. So they hatched a new plan. If this V10 couldn't scream down the straights of Le Mans, maybe it could tear up the streets. At the 2000 Paris Motor Show, Porsche quietly unveiled a concept, a street-legal supercar powered by that same banned from glory engine. It wasn't just a car, it was a statement, a middle finger to compromise. The crowd went wild, and just like that, the green light was given. The Carrera GT was born, not in the labs, not in the boardrooms, but in the hearts of engineers who refused to let passion die. The Carrera. The Carrera wasn't an accident. This was calculated, a car forged to remind the world what Porsche stood for. Racing blood, ruthless performance, and zero compromises. They built a monster. This was Porsche's first road car to feature a full carbon fiber monocoque chassis, race car tech, now in a street-legal body. Built by ATR Composites in Italy, the carbon tub alone cost tens of thousands of euros. But it gave the car insane rigidity and kept the weight low, way low. Then came the rest: carbon ceramic brakes, magnesium wheels, titanium push rods in the suspension, carbon fiber body panels. Everything on this car screamed precision and lightweight performance. Nothing was for show. Every piece had a purpose. And then came the heart, the legend. The engine wasn't just powerful, it was born to race. This was the same V10 that was built for Porsche's LMP 2000 Le Mans prototype, hidden away for years, waiting for a second chance. Originally a 5.5-liter race motor, it was bumped to 5.7-liter for road use, and it delivered a savage 603 horsepower, screaming all the way to 8,400 RPM. The sound? Nothing short of mechanical fury. This wasn't an engine, it was a war cry. The suspension was crafted from aluminum and titanium, super light, super sharp. The steering was razor precise with barely any body roll, giving the car a cornering feel that was almost telepathic. And performance? Brutal. 0 to 60 in just 3.5 seconds. Top speed, 205 miles per hour, 330 kilometers. But as you're probably guessing, this thing came with strings attached. No automatics, no dual clutch, no paddles. Just a 6-speed gated manual and a very special twin-plate ceramic clutch, PCCC, mounted low to lower the center of gravity. Sounds cool, right? Until you try to drive it in traffic. This clutch was unforgiving. It bit hard, with almost no travel. Even skilled drivers found themselves stalling it. It was frustrating, clunky, and flat out annoying if you weren't on a racetrack. And here's where it gets even crazier. This beast was rear-wheel drive only. No traction control, no stability control, no torque vectoring, active aero, or electronic safety nets of any kind. Porsche built it this way on purpose, for the purists, for the drivers who wanted a raw connection to the road. But for everyone else, it was a death trap. One wrong move, one mid-corner miscalculation, and the car could spin, snap, and take you with it. Once it lost traction, you were on your own. This wasn't a car you just drove, it was a car you had to fight. The tragedy. What made the Carrera GT a legend wasn't just the specs, the 600 horsepower, the V10 scream, or its carbon fiber skeleton. No. What really etched this car into history was a tragedy that shook the world. On November 30th, 2013, the world lost Paul Walker, star of the Fast and Furious franchise, and a true gearhead at heart. He was riding shotgun in a Carrera GT driven by his friend and pro racer Roger Rodas, when the car lost control, slammed into a light pole, and exploded into flames. Both men died at the scene. Walker wasn't just a Hollywood star, he was one of us, a car guy, a purist, and the fact that this car, the Carrera GT, was the last thing he ever touched behind the wheel, that hit hard. And it wasn't an isolated incident. The Carrera GT has a track record of being brutal, unforgiving. It had been involved in multiple fatal crashes, even among skilled drivers. Race car driver Walter Röhrl, who helped test the car, famously said, "This is the first car in my life that I drive, and I feel scared." Think about that. This wasn't some amateur behind the wheel. This was a world rally champion. After the crash, Porsche was sued. Hard. The claim? That the Carrera GT was unsafe, too powerful, too unstable, and lacking essential safety features. But the courts sided with Porsche. Why? Because the car was going 95 miles per hour in a 45 zone. The responsibility technically fell on the driver. Porsche walked away legally untouched, but the damage to the car's reputation was done. For the public, the Carrera GT became more than a machine. It became a symbol of speed, risk, and ultimate consequence. Porsche originally planned to build 1,500 units, but after everything, the lawsuits, the public fear, the rising concern around its drivability, production was quietly stopped at just 1,270 cars. That's it. This beast, which could have been Porsche's halo car, their ultimate analog icon, was cut short, never allowed to reach its full potential. It just made sense. The car was iconic, but it was just too much for the roads. These beasts were meant for the tracks, and on the roads, they were a lot to handle. The car's value increased once again after years when collectors began taking an interest in it. The car did leave an intense legacy behind, but it was at the cost of lives, and nothing can make up for the lives lost. This was the tragic tale of Porsche's legendary Carrera GT, a car that was just too much. For more stories like these, subscribe to our channel. Let us know your thoughts on the Carrera GT in the comments below. See you soon!